Today, we're going to dive into a pretty revolutionary idea, one that might just flip everything you think you know about emotions on its head. We're looking at the core ideas from Lisa Feldman Barrett's amazing book, How Emotions Are Made. I mean, really think about that. What if that gut-wrenching feeling of anger, or that wave of sadness, or that burst of pure joy, what if they aren't these automatic, pre-programmed reactions you can't control? What if you're not just finding emotions, but you're actually building them, your brain, making them up, moment by moment? Seriously, get ready, because this idea, it changes absolutely everything. All right, so first things first, we need to talk about the story we've all been telling ourselves for, well, centuries. It's called the classical view of emotion. And yeah, it's probably the one you're most familiar with.
So this classical view basically says that emotions are like reflexes, Something happens out in the world and it triggers a specific emotion circuit in your brain. And that circuit causes this whole cascade of predictable changes, a unique fingerprint. A racing heart means fear. A scowl means anger. And the really big idea here is that these reactions are supposed to be universal for everyone in every culture, everywhere.
And this idea is everywhere in our culture. I mean, just think about the movie Inside Out, right? With those little characters for joy and sadness literally pulling levers in your head. Or shows like Lie to Me, where the hero can supposedly read tiny facial expressions to catch liars. This stuff is in corporate training, it's in FBI manuals. It's even how Sesame Street teaches kids about feelings. So it's not just some old scientific theory, it's baked into how we think. But here's the kicker. For a theory to be, true, it has to stand up to actual scientific tests. And when scientists, including the author of this book, really tried to pin down the hard evidence for these so-called emotional fingerprints, well, they came up empty. This quote from Lisa Feldman Barrett just says it all. She spent years trying to find the specific brain and body patterns for emotions like sadness and anxiety. She ran the same experiment over and over, and they all failed. 8 times in a row. Can you imagine? It was that constant, frustrating failure that finally made her step back and ask a huge question. What if the whole theory is just wrong? And this is the conclusion she and so many other scientists finally came to. When you actually get in the lab and measure it, there is no single consistent pattern for any emotion. None. In studies, when someone's angry, their heart rate might go up, sure, or it might go down. Or it might not change at all. Some people scream, others go quiet. The variety is just immense. That whole fingerprint idea, it's a myth. So, if emotions aren't these built-in reactions that just get triggered, what in the world are they? And this is where we get to the new, really powerful idea, the theory of constructed emotion. The idea that your brain isn't just finding emotions, it's actively building them. Now, to get this, we need one new core concept. The word is affect. And no, affect is not an emotion. It's much simpler than that. It's just the raw data from your body. Think of it like a really basic internal barometer. At any given moment, you are somewhere on a scale from feeling pleasant to unpleasant. And you're also somewhere on another scale from feeling calm to being really agitated or aroused. That's it. That's your affect. Okay, so how does that simple feeling become a complex emotion, like jealousy or pride? Well, let's use an analogy. Think about a muffin and a cupcake. Physically, they're almost identical, right? Flour, sugar, salt, same basic chemistry. But we treat them completely differently. One's for breakfast, the other's a dessert for a celebration. Why? Because of culture, because of the concepts we've learned, because of social reality. We give them a function that has nothing to do with their physical makeup. And believe it or not, emotions work exactly the same way. That raw physical sensation, your affect, like that flutter you feel in your stomach, that's just the flour and sugar. It only becomes an emotion when your brain uses a concept it's learned from your culture to give that feeling meaning. That exact same flutter could be constructed as anxiety or excitement or even just hunger, all depending on the context.
So here's the playbook. This is how your brain builds an emotion in 3 basic steps. First, your brain is always monitoring your internal state. It's sensing your affect. Second, it acts like a prediction machine. It asks, okay, what in my past experience feels like this? It rifles through all the emotion concepts it's ever learned. And finally, it makes its best guess, constructing an emotion like fear or joy to explain what that sensation means right here, right now.
And here is just a perfect and honestly pretty hilarious example of this in action from the author herself. So she's on a date, her stomach is fluttering, her face feels flushed, her brain makes a prediction. Ah, the concept for this is attraction. I must be into this guy. But her brain got it wrong. It totally miscategorized the sensations. The actual cause? A flu virus. The physical reality was illness, but the constructed emotional reality was attraction. Okay, so I know what you might be thinking. This is all interesting brain science, but does it really matter? And the answer is yes. The consequences of sticking with that old classical view, they are profound, and sometimes they can be devastating in the real world. Let's start with medicine, where the stakes are literally life and death. When a woman shows up in the ER with chest tightness and shortness of breath, doctors are statistically more likely to construct an emotion, anxiety, because of cultural stereotypes about women being emotional. But for a man with the exact same symptoms, they're more likely to diagnose a heart attack. This isn't biology. It's a doctor's brain constructing an experience based on cultural concepts, and it has absolutely fatal consequences. And if that's not crazy enough for you, get this. A shocking study of parole board judges found the same thing. A prisoner's chance of getting parole was over 65% in the morning, but that number plummeted to less than 10% right before the judge's lunch break. And then, it shot right back up after they ate. The judges' brains were misinterpreting the raw sensation of hunger, their unpleasant affect, as a valid feeling about the person in front of them. Their gut feeling wasn't a deep legal insight. They were just hangry. And this stuff can even alter the course of history. You might remember the Howard Dean scream. The media played this one clip of his face, totally isolated, looking absolutely furious. And so people constructed rage. But if you saw the whole video, he was in a super loud room, trying to fire up his supporters. He was constructing enthusiasm. But the public's construction, based on that one misleading snippet, basically tanked his entire presidential campaign. Okay, so after all that, here's the good news. The really empowering part. If we are the architects of our own emotions, that actually means we have way more control than we think. We can learn to become more skillful emotional architects. Have you ever felt this? You see a puppy or a baby that's just so cute you want to squeeze it? In the Philippines, they actually have a word for that very specific feeling, gigil. This is perfect proof that we can learn new emotion concepts. And the more concepts you have, the more precise and granular your brain can be in constructing your emotional world. And that's the first step to mastery. So, how do we actually do this? How do we get better at it? Here are 4 really practical tools. First, expand your emotional vocabulary. Go beyond just sad and learn words like melancholy, despondent, glum. Second, recategorize. Next time you feel that jittery arousal of anxiety before a big meeting, try telling yourself, this isn't anxiety, this is excitement. My body is getting ready to crush this. Third, manage your body budget. The source of all this is your body, right? So good sleep, healthy food, some exercise, that all keeps your affect in a better place, giving your brain better raw materials to work with. And finally, be curious. When you get a strong gut feeling, just pause. Ask yourself, is this really information about the world, or am I just tired, hungry, or misinterpreting my own affect? Ultimately, what this all boils down to is a massive shift. The old way of thinking makes you a passive victim of your emotions, just along for the ride. But this new understanding, it gives you agency. You're not just reacting to the world. You are actively creating your experience of it. You are the architect. And that leaves us with one last really powerful question. Understanding this science doesn't just change how you see your past, it opens up brand new possibilities for your future. You actually have the power to shape your emotional life. The only question is, what will you build?